The summer before my son's official pre-K year, I thought that I was going to homeschool. I thought I was going to quit my job and really focus on homeschooling my kids, especially my son, for his official pre-K year. Unfortunately, by the time the school year or his official school year in August had come around, I realized that I was not going to have the finances to be able to quit my job and homeschool. So I kept him in his full-time preschool program, and I just sadly packed the books and curriculum away and didn't think about it for about 3 months. October came around and I thought, you know what? Why don't I try this homeschool thing? It is still on my heart to do it. And so I ended up getting out the Good and the Beautiful preschool curriculum to start with him in the evenings. And I tested him on his letters. And let me tell you, he only knew a handful of letters and letter sounds. And so it was a really good thing that I ended up using this program from the Good and the Beautiful preschool to start working on the letters with him. And I will say, I think that it really solved the problem of him not mastering his letters because of the approach in this program of very solid, systematic review of letter sounds again and again and again. So in his preschool program, he was learning one letter a week every week since the time he was 3 years old until he was when we started it at this program when he was 3 months until 5. So it was almost 2 years of him learning a letter every single week, and he just could never master the letters. And I think it's because by the time he was learning, say, the letter M, he had already forgotten the letter C because too many weeks had gone by. So part of the reason I just really think that this program was successful for us is that it has this very good spiral approach. And so for example, I'm turning to page Unit 1, Lesson 1, they learned the letter A. And then in Lesson 2, they review A and then learn the letter B. And so on and so forth. I think by Lesson 4 or so, they're learning letter C, but then they're still reviewing A and B at the same time, or in the same lesson. And then each unit focuses on, four or five letters. And so that's the focus of that unit, and it's very strategically focusing on those letters, but it is still reviewing previous letters in the units. And so this was extremely helpful for him to just have constant practice and repetition on the letters multiple times. Now, it was around unit, I can't remember if it was unit 4 or 5, that he did start mixing up the letters. And I think in part we had taken a few weeks off over Christmas. And so we started in October. Christmas kind of got crazy. That was the middle of the book at that time. And we just kind of dropped the ball for a few weeks there. And when we picked it back up in January, he had already forgotten a lot of his letters. And so that is when it really came in handy for us to start supplementing a lot more with the preschool practice sheets. And so at first I thought, man, I don't even need these sheets with him because he was getting it so fast. But as more letters were getting brought in and he was continuing to have to review it, I just found that he, needed these practice sheets. So as you can see, it's not even probably half we used in this book, but there was a lot more that was in here. And so we were able to use the practice sheets to help him relearn some of those letters that he had forgotten over that Christmas break. And then the other thing that I loved was the games. So for every single unit, which focused on 4 letters, there was a game that they got to play. So the very first one was called the Mouse House. And what was funny is It's called the preschool folder activities, but the very first game was called Mouse House. And so it turned into, let's play one of the Mouse House games, even if it wasn't technically the Mouse House, which covers A, B, C, and D. There are other names as well for the other letters, but they were just collectively the Mouse House games. And so those were just so much fun to do as well. And that was extremely helpful and just constant practice. Then, as we again got into the middle of the curriculum, there still was some struggle with my son remembering the letters and the letter sounds. And so at that point, we were able to utilize the resources in the app. So the movement activities and the songs. And I honestly wish that I had used those from the beginning, just because I think I just, as a new homeschool working mom, I just hadn't even downloaded the app and realized that I could have used those. It did say it in the book, probably pretty clearly, but I ended up using those resources and songs and movement as he was struggling in the middle of the alphabet. And that's where we had the hardest time and where we needed the most review. But that is what I love about this curriculum, is that you weren't stuck with just the book and having to find other resources outside of it. They gave you the practice sheets, they gave you the games, they had the songs and the movement. And so it was more than enough for us to finish the curriculum and get, I really feel like he has very closely mastered the letters. The very last 2 lessons, you do a final assessment of every single letter and sound. And you can look here and you can see any thing that I circled was technically one that he got wrong, but it really wasn't that bad. Sometimes it was mixing up the M and the N, or the Q, him thinking that it's a P. And so overall, he really did get a lot down. And that's why, we're still going to be practicing with letters as we do his official kindergarten year, as all kindergartners do. But overall, very pleased with the results and how much he learned. And I could really see his growth through using this curriculum. So I would definitely recommend it. I would use it again with my daughter. The only negative is I would have to buy pretty much everything again. So I don't 100% know what I will do with her, but I'd have to buy the practice sheets and the course book again. But I would buy it again because I do think that it was very solid and it was exactly what he needed as, a 4, almost 5-year-old. And then he finished it when he was 3 or 4 months after he turned 5.
2 months after starting this curriculum, I pulled my son out of his full-time daycare and figured out another solution for him to be home while I work to allow us to homeschool more easily. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made.